In this video, I'm going to tell you how I use Google Tag Manager as a digital marketing data analyst. This is a subset of a data analyst where it's not as programming heavy and it's more focused on using marketing tools to capture key, sometimes custom metrics happening on a website, collect that data, and then report on that data in dashboards for business leaders and stakeholders by building very compelling charts and graphs and crunching those numbers. So we're going to be covering the first part of that, which is Google Tag Manager and collecting some of those custom metrics. Now, just keep in mind that this is not the same thing as a typical data analyst, but it's similar. And also keep in mind, this is not a full-blown tutorial on how to use Google Tag Manager. There's so many great YouTube channels and videos for that. Measure School and Analytics Mania literally have hundreds of videos teaching you in much more detail and much more quality than I can on how to set up and track every possible thing you could think of using Google Tag Manager in a variety of ways. So please check out those videos if you want to self-teach yourself how to use those tools. That's partially how I learned. What I'm going to do is kind of give you an overview and give you kind of real world examples or just stuff from the field, because they're oftentimes just teaching it and then giving you mock examples, but I'll try and give you some ideas from someone actually being in the field. I've been working 8 years in the digital marketing industry, all agency life, which means as an agency, I have oftentimes on average 4 or 5 clients I'm juggling that are constantly being cycled in and out. Kind of like a lawyer. I'm watching Suits, so that's why I brought out that analogy. But how a lawyer often cycles through different clients. I'm doing the same, which allows me to have a lot of different experiences and use cases and scenarios where I'm using Google Tag Manager. So without further ado, you probably want to see me actually showing you around. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and stop talking now. And let's just get right into it. So first and foremost, we have this website, which is actually my personal blog. On this website, I just write about things I find interesting. It's just kind of a fun blog. And so we're going to be using this as a mock example, but we're probably also going to throw in a few business examples that I can pull out to just show you how it works. Unfortunately, I can't show you real client examples because those are clients. So what I can do is show you Google Tag Manager for my own website. And then I'll kind of give you break down how it typically goes. Now, this is actually a very basic, simple container. I actually like this. If I had a client that came in with this, I actually feel better because then I could build from scratch. But usually what happens is I inherit a container because, the client's already been in business for years and it's messy. There's at least 10 to 20 assets. In worst case situations, there's 100 tags in here, and it can be a mess to clean up. There's like an attic. There's sometimes a lot of cobwebs. There's broken stuff. There's stuff that's no one's using, but no one has bothered to throw out. So the attic analogy, it definitely makes sense sometimes. And yeah, it's just depending on how good or bad the client is, sometimes it's just really messy or somewhat clean in here. Rarely is it completely clean and organized. And so I highly recommend starting when you start the container fresh, start with best practices, and that way you won't have a messy attic. There are people with clean attics, and how do they do it? They have a good habit system where if they don't need something, they throw it away. They have everything organized and labeled so you don't forget about it and you use it and retrieve it when you need to. And so one thing that I typically do when I start is I start to build folders. Folders help organize everything together so it's nice and clean. Usually you'll find a client who has at least some unfiled items, so you can name a folder, different purposes. So with this container, it's so barren that all we really need is a basic GA4 configurations folder. But typically you want to get that unfiled items count down to 0. And then, of course, if you're cleaning or restoring or like essentially organizing a messy container, you also want to basically, work with your client to make sure that anything that's unused in here that was set up that maybe was for a one-off campaign or marketing engagement that's not used anymore, delete it or at least pause it, right? And throw it into a folder that says deprecate so that you know that in the next 6 months, you are highly considering or you're going to delete these tags. You can pause them for now so that they're not running on your site and not slowing down your site, especially if you're tracking stuff and it's not being used. But that's some of the stuff I do just as an initial base, get them on best practices of cleanliness and organization, and then start to clean things up. But typically, that's not the real reason we're in here. We're usually in here to set up new tracking or fix existing tracking. So why do we need new tracking? Well, if you just install Google Analytics 4, which is what I have on this site, then you're just going to get very basic out-of-the-box metrics. Nothing special, nothing advanced. If you log into Google Analytics, you can literally see some of that. It's just basic numbers like page views, sessions, users, engagement rate, which is nice, as you can see, but sometimes, especially businesses, want to get more sophisticated than that. They want to know more than just like how many people are visiting their site over the last like 3 months, 90 days. And it's nice to see if the numbers go up or down, but okay, what else can we do? Like, are we getting more engagement? Are we getting more conversions? Conversions it's usually some type of key interaction that's really important for revenue, but it depends on the company. I mean, I've worked with nonprofits and their conversion is more so about a donation or volunteer sign up. So it just depends on the advocacy and the organizational goal. But for here, out of the box, you can get like file downloads and clicks. But by the way, these out of the box ones are not as accurate as if you set it up yourself. There's just something off or wonky about these out of the box, just from experience. But you can get scroll depth, page views. It's really not that much data, to be honest. Like, okay, what can you really do about this when you really want to know how many people are purchasing my product, signing up on my lead form submission page to become a lead? I mean, let's take one of the largest insurance companies in the world, or at least in the US, headquartered in Chevy Chase, Maryland, and company that Warren Buffett invested in very early on. Just some fun facts I know. Anyhow, the point is, for something like a Geico, they typically what they really care about is, okay, how many people started a quote and then completed a quote and became a lead? Because when you're selling like higher ticket stuff or business to business stuff, typically what happens is you can't get the sale on the site on their own. You usually need like a salesman to close that lead, or you need a longer gestation period for that customer to become a customer. They're just a prospect. So the goal of this website is just to basically make it like super easy to convert into a lead. And a lead is usually when they fill out this entire form and then they submit. So how do we track that? Well, this is something you would track with Google Tag Manager, because out of the box, GA4 is not going to track those interactions. It's just going to track, basic stuff like I said, sessions, users. You might even get some demographic data like what country they're coming from. So for me, you can see most of my users come from US, but a surprising amount coming from India, UK, and so forth. So it's nice to know, but then like a business like Geico or your local roofing company or plumbing company, they're like, okay, that's great to know that most of my website visitors are from the US. And even if you break it down by region, it's like, okay, it's good to know that they're coming from California or this city, Santa Clara, New York. But like maybe that's good for their like avatar, but they really want us to track key interactions. And there's a bunch, I think for even like for sites web clients I've worked with, um, it's not just a conversion, but like points leading up to the conversion or the customer journey. Sometimes they would like to know, okay, how often are people clicking the navigation menu? So, for example, let's say harvard.edu. I've worked with some universities as well. They typically have a navigation menu. So, how many people are clicking this navigation menu and then, clicking into here. So you can do that with heat mapping tools like Hotjar, but like sometimes the beauty of tracking it through Google Tag Manager is you can pair it with all this other data in here and segment and then like see, okay, what segments and basically splice and dice with the existing data. With a Hotjar type of tool, you only get the clicks. So there's that. There's also like, okay, maybe there's a key page on the site, like their Go Crimson tickets to get sports tickets for their upcoming games. This may be a key page on their site, and they want to know, okay, how many people are clicking the SeatGeek button to actually book a ticket. And they want to collect this through Google Tag Manager so that they can pair it with demographic data to see if there's a certain state or city, maybe alumni who are coming to buy tickets more than others. So that's just an example of why I would have to come in and do Google Tag Managers. I would say just on a broad overarching level, typically the types of custom metrics that I do end up setting up are for sure key conversion metrics. So for nonprofits, that's volunteering, donating. There's also essentially mid-funnel actions as well. So for example, some of these organizations, websites, businesses will offer webinars, free workshops, in-person events to basically generate leads. And even for this Harvard example, they probably do the same with tours. Harvard, not as much because they're like so well known, but like if you choose like a lesser known school, let's just say Dartmouth University, for sure, one of their lead generation things is going to be virtual and in-person tours of their campus. So that's a lead generation thing, because the people are not just going to go to their website and just buy. They need to be accepted, and then they need to also be pitched to pay for tuition. So they're not trying to get the sale as much as they are trying to get a lead. And same thing with insurance companies like Geico or any type of auto insurance. So with that being said, these are some things that are collected. Like there's some places like let's just say, with Russell Brunson's ClickFunnels, right? He is an example of a company that has a bunch of, I guess, workshops and like free events that he offers. So, he might, I think it's probably russellbrunson.com. russellbrunson.com. Yep. So he might have a bunch of webinars and stuff that he's also tracking. And he wants people to sign up for some of these things and essentially, become a lead. So they can nurture you further and then eventually purchase something. And so that would be a lead capture that would be measured and tracked. And so, okay, we've said enough theory. How can we apply this? So let's go ahead and set something up for you. So I would click new tag here. And by the way, it's good to watch some of those fundamental videos on certain key aspects of what is in Google Tag Manager, so you can better understand this. But just to give you a very quick crash course, once again, I would recommend watching those tutorials first. But as a quick crash course, the tag is the what. What are you tracking? The trigger is the when. When do you fire that tag? So with that being said, we're going to create a tag here, and we're going to say Google Analytics. We're going to say custom GA4 event. And then with the events, with the measurement ID, I can go ahead and select this here. That's my GA4 ID. And then with the event name, you can name it whatever as long as you follow best practices. Some people don't, but you need to follow best practices to keep it clean in GA4, which means lowercase. Any spaces should be underscores instead. So in this case, we're just going to measure something simple like navigation menu clicks. So I'm going to name this nav menu click. And then from here, I'm going to name the tag. So GA4 event dash navigation menu click. Once again, keep it very clean. Title case, type of tag, and then the dash, and then the purpose of that tag. And then from here, you can actually go ahead and set up a trigger. So for now, I'm going to set it to all pages because I don't know what I want this to trigger off of just yet. But what we're going to do is find out. So I'm going to submit and generate a preview mode. And then through this preview mode, I'm going to be able to preview and test interactions on the site, and then be able to figure out what I can trigger that off of. So right now, we have the preview mode on the left, and then I'm going to go ahead and click an item in the navigation menu. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Start Here button. Now, when I click this Start Here button, that was interaction 6. I'm going to go to variables here. And then from here, we're going to see all the different things that we can use to kind of identify that click as a navigation menu click. And right now, it looks like I haven't actually enabled all the variables that I could use to identify it. So I'm going to go to variables here. Variables are kind of like identifiers. So we only have a few. We're going to click configure under built-in, and then I'm going to just tick some of the ones that are typically most important. I'm going to go ahead and click all the click ones are usually very valuable. These are the most valuable ones in my opinion. We're not going to use forms for now, but I'll go ahead and click form element and form class because there's not many forms, but there's some. And then I'll tick these just because we can, and then we should be good to go. I'm going to go back to the, well, actually, we're going to close out here, and then we're going to enable preview mode again. Let me try close out again because I think maybe it's still enabled on a window or something. Let me see here. Go ahead and click preview mode. Here we go, HTTPS dreamlifelab.org. And we're going to click connect, which is going to initiate. There we go. We initiated preview mode. It's connected here. And then notice there's 5 events already. These are like the things that have happened so far. The containers loaded, the windows loaded. I'm going to go ahead and click resources here. That is click 6. And then from here, we're going to see what can we possibly use to identify these clicks in the navigation menu as unique clicks. So in this case, I would look at the click classes and then the click text. So in this case, The only thing I find unique about it is the name of the text item that was clicked. In this case, it was a link with the name resources. We're going to go ahead and click a couple other of these to verify. So with the about page, yeah, that's the only thing unique. There's actually a click element here, so I could probably pull out something in the element here, like primary dash menu dash container. I'll copy that. Let's see if the same thing is here in this element. Nope. So we got to find something within this click element that is unique to these nav menu items that I can use as a, I guess, identifier for navigation menu clicks. The click element is essentially taking out some of the coding of the nav menu link. So with this one, we might be able to use primary dash menu dash list because I feel like this other one might have that. Yep, it does. So let's just click a few more of these just to verify. So we've clicked the resources and about so far. Let me click start here. And then with the start here, let's check that. Yep, it has it too. And then newsletter, let's click that. That brings us to a different page actually. So that one isn't even detected, honestly, but that's fine. I mean, sometimes you can't win them all. You can't collect every possible thing. Oh, no, it is. It is. Okay, so I just had to scroll up. Here it is. Here's the newsletter one. It also has that. And then the last one here is the contact button. Let's go ahead and click contact. And this one also has, let's see here. Yep, the contact button here also has that in the click element. So why does this matter? Well, we need to figure out a trigger that works. Remember, the trigger is the when we should fire this. The trigger that will only fire when a navigation menu item is clicked. So we go back to this tag, get rid of that all triggers thing. And then in this case, we're going to choose, because these are link clicks, we're going to choose the built-in just links click trigger here. And then instead of all link clicks, we're going to say some click element, because this is the variable click element. Remember, the click element's almost like an identifier, contains primary dash menu dash list. And then we're going to name this trigger link click navigation menu click. I'm going to say primary navigation menu. That's just a habit of mine because I've run across many websites where there's a primary and then there's a secondary navigation. So might as well just make that a habit to keep things clear. And you might be like, wow, you're overboard with keeping things clear and organized. I am, because you have to be. I run into a lot of websites and GTM containers. Worked with very large, small, medium-sized businesses where everything's a mess. And when things are a mess, guess what? Your numbers are a mess, your accounting is a mess, your website analytics is a mess. And how are you going to make clear business decisions when everything's confusing and a mess? So what we're looking for here to test it, I've initiated preview mode again, is when I click one of these navigation menu items, we're going to go on the summary page, we're going to go from this tag not fired at all to this tag fired. So I'm going to go ahead and click resources here. And it didn't fire. Let's try again. We're going to click about. It also did not fire. So also, what you have to realize is sometimes you're going to do some debugging. You're going to expect it to work, and then it doesn't work. So in this case, we can actually look into here, go into that link click, and identify why it didn't fire. And it didn't fire because it's saying it didn't detect that click element contains primary menu list. So why is that? Click element contains primary dash menu dash list. So it is here, but for whatever reason, this just did not detect it did. So sometimes it has to do with the fact that this regex, that this condition needs to be a regex rather than a contains. It's weird like that, but that's sometimes the case. It could be something else. Let's try it out again. And there's oftentimes a lot of back and forth debugging here. So we're going to initiate it once more. Sometimes it is a little bit glitchy, so I'm going to have to X out of here and then initiate preview mode once again. And as you can see, the point of this is to essentially track some key interactions. In this case, it's navigation menu clicks, but if it was a form submission, I would do something very similar, but using a form submission trigger. And then if it was let's say, when people sign up for the newsletter, same thing. I would track that. And then the beauty of this is if I just use some other tool like the lead form I use to capture newsletters, it already counts it through that tool. I use ConvertKit. But if I track it through Google Tag Manager, now I compare it with traffic data and I could get something like a conversion rate. How many people visited that page? How many people converted? And what are those people? What devices were they on? What country or region did they come from? So we're going to try again here. I'm going to hit start here. I'm going to hit about. And then in this case, it's still not firing. We're going to look into it. Going to click link clicks, click this one. It's saying it's just not matching this click element. And sometimes that's partially because, this plus sign, it looks like it's breaking it apart and only capturing the first part of it, but it's not. That's just because of how the page is loaded. When you actually look into the thing itself, this whole thing's connected when you actually look at the code. So it should, in fact, contain the click element for that. But in this case, it's not, just because this site's being kind of wonky. So primary menu, let's just check that out. Primary menu list. So in this case, we may have to try something different. I might try and choose another thing that it could detect. So one thing I saw in there was nav. That was consistent across all of them. I'm going to change it to nav. And then from here, we are going to just try again. So it's a lot of back and forth debugging. Once again, it doesn't always have to be a nav menu you're tracking. It could be some other element of engagement. Maybe it's a button click. Then I'll use a button trigger. It could be a form submission. If it was a button click, it could be add to cart. It could be sign up as a volunteer, a donate now button, or it could be a form submission. I typically prefer form submissions because that shows that they actually filled out all the form fields, and then they went ahead and purchased, or they went through with it. Whereas with something else, it's with just a button click, they may not have filled out the form. So this is kind of the work we do, and you'll be surprised how fast a container can balloon, because you just have the ability to track so many different things if you want to. And so in order to essentially stay on top of it, you have to also work with the client to make sure that they're not tracking 100 different things if they don't really find value in it. Sometimes there's a lot of value in it because, for example, there's a drop-off that you want to see over time, and something like this allows you to see that drop-off over time. But it really just depends on you as a person and their organizational goals, and you working together with your expertise and experience to come together for a final decision. Now, I'm not going to continue debugging this back and forth for you in this video because that will be, too much. The purpose was to kind of explain it to you, so we're going to cap it here. Hopefully, you now have a better sense of what I do for my work with Google Tag Manager, which is a large portion of my job. And maybe you can kind of get a sense to see if this is the type of work that you would enjoy doing, that you would find valuable, fun, or just be strong in, or have the potential to be strong in. If you like this video, leave it a like, subscribe for more content like this for free, and join my free email newsletter down below. Link is in the description. for exclusive tips like this, but exclusive tips, even free coaching calls where I help people like you become a digital marketing analyst and get paid very well to do a very awesome job. Thanks for watching.